for folks, they can catch it if they missed the beginning as well. So, thank you all so very much for being here tonight. I wanted to take a moment to kind of acknowledge the environment and the context that we're in. It's been, for many of us in our community, it's been really reeling. And it's like, even though we've experienced this wave of anti-Asian racism over the past year, and for many of us throughout much of our lives, it seems that the events in Atlanta this week have kind of crested, and much in the same way that the slaughter of unarmed Black men has been persistent throughout our culture. There was a certain crest at the murder of George Floyd that was particularly pernicious, or that for one reason or another started catching the attention of others. And so I want to acknowledge that, for many people entering the space, you're carrying things, and it can oftentimes be very difficult. But I also want to acknowledge that this is the opportunity, the joy and the burden that we have as artists, that we have the power to help shift narratives. We have the power to help shape the culture, and we have the power to experience healing through our authentic expressions. So I think it's actually extremely timely that we welcome Wendy into tonight's space, because of the work that she does through her kind of holistic teaching methods and just the energy that she brings. So, we definitely want to welcome her as a guest. And I just want to mention that, the work that we do in the Slants Foundation, that we're absolutely committed and passionate for empowering artists to incorporate ideas of activism into your art. And it might not look like community organizing. It might not even look like angry or direct lyrics. It might show up in a lot of different ways, but however you choose to express yourselves, we're here to provide resources, funding, mentorship, and help make that happen, to empower all of you. So thank you for being here. I do want to mention two things before we begin. We have two opportunities right now. One of them is a new partnership with Rock Paper Radio, and it's the Asian meets BLM movement, where you can go ahead and apply for funding. We're looking for pitches for projects where you can get funding, promotion, and other kinds of great resources to showcase your work, whether that's music, poetry, an essay, however you choose to show up in that space. It's from a previous recipient of one of our grants who's partnered up with TED, like the big TED, and it's something called TED Mystery Experiment, and all of us are collaborating together to help amplify your voices. So please, the deadline is coming up soon, but I dropped the link in the chat. If you have something and you want to work on something that's new, please go ahead and apply. It costs nothing, and it's an opportunity to get some really great resources behind you. The other thing that I wanted to announce is that our Wendy Parr has this incredible program called The Ride, and it was something that our organization wanted to be able to extend to those of you who are here tonight. You can apply for this program, and we're going to pay for a scholarship for someone to go through this 6-week program. And it's just a really great way to kind of hone your craft. And I would encourage you, even beyond tonight, there's a lot of really cool resources. Wendy's got all kinds of amazing things. Yeah, awesome. And also, like, she recently did a TEDx talk about perfectionism and how it's dead. So there's some links in the chat window. Please continue to explore those, and especially after tonight's call, feel free to dive into all of that. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. And so I just want to welcome Wendy to the space. And those of you, if you signed up for this thing, she's a multi-award-winning songwriter, an amazing vocal coach who has just this unbelievable slate of clients and history of work, vocal producer, speaker, educator, an incredible human being whose writings and teachings I've definitely enjoyed as an artist and as someone who's been in this industry for many years. So I just wanted to say, Wendy, welcome and thank you so much for being here tonight in our Artist Think Tank.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for asking me and for collaborating on and offering a scholarship. I think it's phenomenal. I will talk about the ride tonight, so you'll know more about what it is, and the online portion of it we've just put into a new space. So like the landing page and like getting all the information in there is still growing, but this will be the 4th cycle of the ride, and it's really elevated each time. But the core of it is what I do with artists over long periods of time. You know, it takes 7 to 10 years to really find your voice as an artist. I was talking with A&R from Capitol today, Amanda. She's wonderful. And, you know, she was talking about when an artist's on tour, and she said, you know, when you see their first shows and you're like, well, yeah, okay, they're good. And then you see their 30th show and you're like, okay, I see where they're at. You know, I said, yes, there are things that you cannot learn except on tour. I can't teach it to you in the room. You're not going to learn it through social media experiences. It's being on tour, performing night after night, crowd after crowd, that certain things happen, like all the things that we work on in rehearsal go into play night after night. And you're like, oh, this is how I use my voice each night. This is how I don't blow it out, but still give all my heart and spirit. Like there's just, I'm connecting with my audience. I get better and better at that. So what I do with artists over a long period of time, just working and things I've done with them, you know, from first voice lesson to a Grammy, I've put into a 6-week course that takes a small group of artists doing it together, really dive into who are you. It's about getting clarity or honing in on being re-inspired with your artistic vision. So a lot of artists think they know who they are. Like, you know, I'm a pop artist. I'm like this, I'm a little bit like this and that, and we know our influences, but you can tell me who Pink is, you can tell me who Kelly Clarkson is. The two of them, as an example, they could, 90% of their songs, both of them could sing. Like the actual musically, lyrically, like a majority of their songs, they could both sing and it would make sense for them. But if you identified Pink as a description, how would you describe Pink? Throw it in the chat, say it out loud. I don't know how you work in the format, but how would you, like, what are 3 adjectives that you would say, or a couple short sentences to describe Pink?
Raw.
Raw.
Unapologetic.
Unapologetic. Female power. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Be a little punk.
Little punk. Yeah. Little punk, little badass. Yeah, punk's a good one. And how would you describe Kelly Clarkson?
Powerhouse.
Powerhouse. Okay.
Empowered.
Empowered, but different than punk Pink, who's super empowering to women, right? Different. How is she different?
I think Pink has like an edge, which is like where the punk portion comes from. Whereas Kelly Clarkson, it's like, I'm getting like emotion in my head, like it's like this versus like a knife, you know?
Okay, amazing. So I think of Kelly Clarkson as a survivor. She's like, I'm the underdog, always overcoming, right? Like, oh, this happened to me and I'm going to overcome it. Yeah, the lifting, I'm coming up out of the dirt. Whereas Pink is like, I'm tearing things down. You can't bring me down. And Kelly Clarkson's like, you've brought me down, I'm climbing back up. Oh, you hurt me, I'm climbing back up. Right? She's a survivor. And Pink, maybe you could think of more as a warrior. And again, these are very close. They're very close to each other, but they're different. You need to know those things about yourself so clearly that everyone around you, your audience, your team, they know who you are because you're so clear about you. The reason why a lot of artists start making music or putting stuff online, or your management, your team, or you're listening to the audience for, oh, well, they like that, maybe I should do more of that. If you don't know who you are, someone else is going to start telling you who you are. And then you're starting to make music and choices that aren't aligned with you. Like, you're like, well, I guess I should do this, or, oh, well, they're telling me and they know better, right? They're in power, they're my manager, or what have you. And before you know it, you're actually living a life that isn't true to you, doesn't feel good to you. So for me, that's what I'm about. As an artist coach, I'm here to empower the artists to have fulfilling lives. Not just be like, oh, I'm vocally trained, who cares? Like, I can sing that note, but what are you saying? And how are you saying it? Are you enjoying what you're saying? You know, I was talking to an artist the other day about it who's taking the ride, and they've got a huge social media following. Just got signed to a management I really love, respect a lot. And we were talking about, I started leading them through some of the exercises that are on the ride. So let me explain the ride clearly, and then I know I tend to go off in tangents as I'm very spontaneous, divergent.
No worries. Take whatever time or pathway you think is most appropriate.
But they're all connected. So the ride is really this process I lead artists through in a 6-week course where we're going to dive into what is my sound, what is my persona, who am I about, what based on you. None of it's coming from me. I've got the process, the questions, the work, the exercises, so that you can dive into yourself. And then in that process, you work with other artists to do the work together, to have someone who understands you, gets you, reflects back to you. And so you have someone to go through this journey with together. And when it's done in 6 weeks, it's not done. It's the rest of your life and career. You have these answers, first of all. You have the answers to understand, like, oh, this is what I'm about. How does that play out in this next video? Okay, and then your next song comes out and you're like, ooh, this song, this other archetype. We have 12 archetypes. The jokester archetype in me, that's the one taking the lead here. Okay, now how does that play out in my music video and my artwork? And because it's all me, but different sides of you get to come out. And then Sylvina, who was, she's working on her 5th record. And actually, I brought in a writer and producer that I love, and we're writing songs with her right now. She took the ride because she's like, I'm on my 5th record. I need new inspiration. I need new ideas. I don't know what I want to do with this. And through the process, you see her, we actually filmed one of the exercises I did with her doing it so that people can learn from the example. And that's going to be available, I think, in about a week or 2 online. You can go through that one exercise. And she goes, oh my gosh, this is like exciting, but so daunting. Those are all things musically I've never done before. And I'm like, yeah. And they're all things you love. And they're the answers to the question of, what do I do on my 5th record that's new and different? So you answer the question for yourself, and it's going to be filled with things you love. So you push your comfort zone out by being you. And so this artist who's taking the ride got signed, has done covers, big following, right? And now is writing original material, working with the management, listening to songs, recording new songs that maybe he hasn't written, someone else did. And so I started going through this process, the musical one particularly, of what kind of music do you love? I said, because what's going to happen in about a minute, and what I want to help prevent for you, is they're going to present songs to you and you're going to be like, okay, well, I'll record them. And now you're recording songs. And in a minute, you got 5 songs. They're ready to push one out to be a single. And you're standing there going, but I don't really love this music. And he said, it's already happening. He's like, it's 100%. That's what's happening already. I said, and that's because you don't know yet. And that's okay. Like he says it, I don't know myself yet. I've only done covers. I don't know who I am yet as an artist. And I'm like, some of that's going to be discovered in the next 2 years, right? You're going to get on stage, you're going to try things in the studio. It's an unending process, you know? You turn 30, you're a different person. Ooh, who am I now? You spend a summer in Spain and you're like, ooh, I want to incorporate this instrument. Like, it's never ending. But to get on the page where you're walking into the room with, hey, I have clarity about, I know I like this, I know I like this, I know I like this. That's not really my thing. You're going to be exploring in a lane that suits you. So everyone can jump into your lane because you're presenting the lane, right? So your team is there to support you. But if you don't have enough you, they're just going to start throwing ideas at you and run with one of them. And there are plenty of I put in quotes, successful, financially, career-wise successful artists who are unhappy with the music they're making because it is not authentic to them.
And Wendy, if I could just ask here, I think it's one of the things that I think you kind of bring up as you're describing this program is like, this is the difference between working with, say, a teacher versus working with a coach. Like, so one, you're just getting a bunch of lessons thrown at you. Another one, you get someone who's asking you questions, who's helping you look inside to find those answers. And what I love in particular about your method and what you do that's different than, say, an author who just writes a bunch of books on music business, or someone who's just making YouTube videos or blogs about it, is that you're actually working with people where they are to help them get to where they're going. And
Ooh, can I quote you on that? I like that.
yeah, go for it.
What it is.
Well, you know, it's in your own description. You call yourself a holistic artist coach, and what I think, what I find really interesting about this is that you're talking about the ride, and even as we were casually discussing prior to starting here, we were kind of essentially dancing around this idea of like authenticity, like finding out what really drives an artist, what's their true self. I'm kind of wondering if you could take a moment to just step back and help us like define, like, what do you mean by authenticity when it comes to the performing arts, and like how can artists actually better express their own uniqueness instead of just say trying to discover who they are by way of like the kind of music they enjoy listening to or the kinds of covers they like making.
So there's so many aspects to this. There's so many layers. Yesterday, I posted a tip of the day, which is the thing that you fear, face it, do it, be it. For example, you afraid to wear pink? Are you afraid to paint your nails? Are you afraid to sing that rock song? Like, your fears are showing you who you are. Your fears are telling you, like, that voice inside is saying, this is me that wants to show up. On a personal level, I used to see other women wear something and I think, oh, that's so cute. She looks so cute like that, but I can't wear that. I'm queer. Like, everyone would know I was queer. She can wear that because she's straight. Like, that was what was playing in my head. Now, I've been out since I'm like, I think 19 years old. Like, that's a non-negotiable. Like, that, I cannot lie. Like, oh, it's so bad sometimes. Like, I will say things with kindness, but like, it's not the cells in my body. I cannot lie. So there was no way I was hiding myself, right? However, I definitely hid parts of myself over and over throughout time. You know, we all know what it's like to be a teenager and like, oh, I don't want to play my music because what if they don't like it? Like, I'm going to say stupid stuff like that. But we all go through that to different, varying degrees. For me, I had it at a big degree because I grew up in a home that said, don't be you. Don't like who's showing up, Wendy, don't be you. I want you to be the girl that I imagine you to be. You need to wear this outfit, stockings, and like, just, it was very much, no singing at the table, because I was always singing. Right. So, hey, we don't want to hear you right now, which, okay, I can get it, we're at the table. But still, there was just a constant like shutting down of me. So it took me a lot of effort to allow me to be me. And over, like, again, this year, I'm sure I will find a way or a place where I'm like, ooh, you're not totally showing up as yourself there. How can let me look at that and let me show up as me. So it's always evolving. We are always evolving. So look at your fears. I'll go back to that. I know, like, things have changed a lot, but like maybe some guys like, oh, I can't wear pink. Pink is for girls. Wear pink. And again, this depends on your culture and where you're from and what generation you're born. In Europe, men wear bright colors. In America, it's like pink and blue. Those are defined colors. That's changed a lot, right? But wherever your fear is, like, how are you afraid of showing up? That's literally your voice saying, this is how I want to show up. Your fear is showing you where your comfort zone ends. Step into it. So one way is notice where you're stopped. Notice where you get afraid. Look at the why of that and see how you can bust it. See, can you step into it? Try it out. And when you try it out, you're going to find both rejection and applause. And the rejection doesn't matter because they're not living your life. You're the one waking up every day, living, going to sleep in your skin. You got to enjoy your life. But the acceptance and the validation is super helpful, obviously, and then part of this is, see, there's so many layers to this, right? We're just talking about an artist. If you live in a town where most people are going to reject you for being a weirdo, because creative artists are a little bit weird. We're not the norm. However, normal is hiding, weirdos hiding, right? Like, normal, safe is just a bunch of people pretending not to be themselves. Because everyone's a little weird. That's what's so wonderful. but creatives are wired differently. Creatives think and look at the world differently. We respond differently. You know, there's no such thing as too emotional. There's like, emotions are beautiful. There's playing a victim, that doesn't serve you, but there's not, emotions are beautiful. How we use them, put them in your art. So I think that one way to look at your authenticity is, you know, looking at, what's that thing I've always wanted to do? There's your truth. What's that thing that I keep being afraid of doing? There's your truth. Where's the line that I walk up to and walk away from? Oh, there's my truth. And the spectrum of, on a personal level, on a career level, the spectrum of people who really don't like me, don't really care too much, don't know who I am, like me a little, really like me, are obsessed with me, that spectrum always exists. There's always a percentage somewhere. But the first and foremost thing is, do I like me? Am I creating art I love? Am I living in a way that I can show up every day going, yeah, this is me. And who you see, this is me. So when you say, oh my gosh, you're amazing, we love what you're doing, you can, oh my gosh, you literally gave meaning to my life. Who I am is resonating with you. Ah, amazing. But if you're not showing up as you, you're doing songs that aren't really you, you're not being as bold as you want to be. When someone says you're amazing, what happens is, oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, it's not really me that you're applauding, because I'm not really showing up and I know it. So that's where the pain is, and the sadness is, and the drug use is. That's where people feel like imposters. So you being you, we've heard it said, it's like people wear masks. We do. Like, we wear a mask to be liked, to be pleased. You please yourself first, show up as you. You can do that with kindness. You don't need to do this with like, you know, hey, you all, like, I'm being me now, I don't care, you know. You can do it with kindness. It doesn't mean you're fighting the world to be you. But the percentages of people who dig you, when you dig you, grow. The percentage of people who resonate with your art and your music are definitely going to grow when you're being you. So how you want a life that is like painful because you're not being seen for who you are. That's what that leads to. Doing songs that you think will sell, or doing anything to please anybody else.
And I think that kind of mindset is sometimes, it's kind of, not sometimes, it's all the time, reinforced by social media. This need to always be pleasing, like thinking like, wait, before I post this, how many likes am I going to get? Before I share this video, wait, I made a mistake here. I don't know if I could share that. I actually had bandmates that would oftentimes get really angry at me for showing live performances where there were mistakes. And I was like, no, some of that is the best, because it shows that we're not perfect. And so I wanted to kind of bring up the TED Talk that you recently did on Perfectionism is Dead, because I think this is critical, because I think that you talk about fear, and one of those fears that I don't think many people give voice to or admit that is present in our lives is the fear of us not being perfect. I mean, that's why we're in a world of auto-tune. That's why in the world of like locking everything down to like the microsecond, where most people can't even tell the difference. But like that's besides the point. It's like we sometimes use the excuse of perfectionism to not release our authentic selves or to actually get work done. And so I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit about like that mindset. Like in it, one of the things I really loved that you said was that you said every human being on this planet is designed to sing, and that it connects us with others. Now, as a non-singer in my band, as someone who's oftentimes afraid or ashamed of my own voice, even though I've been playing music for a couple of decades now, like how do you think this extends for those of us non-singers or who feel like we have to mask our voice with effects and tuning and other things? Like how's that mindset of like overcoming this idea of perfectionism empowering to actually make us better, like singers or expressors of you know, the things that we want inside?
A great question. So in the chat where I put a 20% off for you all for Foundation, and that code will probably be active tomorrow, I think, to get that set up. Foundation is all about the perfectionism. Foundation is all about killing the perfectionist. And it applies to everybody, every genre, everything, right? Like I use singing as the microcosm. Like we're all designed to sing. Humans sing around the house, radio, you know. And if we look at singing as our example, we can apply it to painting, to anything. You build software, whatever you do. So perfectionism, and the reason why it's called Foundation is it's the first course I do with everybody. If someone's taking, private sessions with me, our first session is an hour and a half long, and we have this conversation that I've called Foundation. And the reason it's my first course is before you start training vocal technique, anything, it's the mindset we have to look at. Because if you start training with, oh, I need to learn this skill so I can be good, so I can be liked, so I can be perfect, that's how you're going to go into that mindset of training. You're not going to succeed at learning. You're definitely not going to have a good time doing it. So perfectionism kills your creative spirit. The judge, the editor, the I need to be liked, I need to sound good. I did a clip, one of my creative tips, I had a blooper, and working with my video guy, he took the blooper, turned it into black and white, kind of sped up the speed a little. I was like, oh my God, and kept the blooper in. And I absolutely loved it because, and I didn't edit it out when I gave it to him. I was like, this could be fun, because again, it's humanity. We're human. Like, I strive to be a very kind, good person. And then I say something on Instagram and a bunch of people, like some of them trolls, obviously, pound on me for it. And I'm like, I'm not here to argue like that. That's like, I know my intention. But again, I'm a human. I get hangry. I'm sure I've reacted poorly in situations, right? We're human. We're not Buddha yet. So, but striving to be kind, compassionate. Yeah, not perfect. High standards and perfection are not the same thing. You doing your best you is not perfection. Perfection is actually all the outside voices and the outside ideas that you've received, internalized to the point where you think it's your voice and your idea. You're supposed to be this. You're not attractive because of this. It's why we look at social media, or why we look at why there's a huge conversation right now. And thank goodness it's changing, where, I see ads for something and there's actually people who look like people in the human race instead of what I grew up with. I grew up in California. This silver hair used to be dark brown, almost black. And I'm 5 feet. And I grew up in California going, I'm not beautiful. Everyone's 5'9", tall and blonde and surfing. Like, I didn't grow up thinking I was attractive at all, because what was society telling me is attractive? Not this person. I've got tattoos. Tattoos became trendy. I liked them long before that. I remember when I went from like a little tattoo to one on this arm and one on the shoulder. And I recognized that the looks I got suddenly changed to like, oh, she's tattooed. Whereas when I had the one, it was like, oh, that's cool. Then it was like, ooh. So culture tells you who you're supposed to be. Your family's told you, schools told you. How is it that we go to school and right from the beginning, like the idea is that a good student gets A's at everything? Well, that's a big lie that literally divides people right away into, you're not smart, you're stupid, you're really smart, it literally divides people into groups they don't belong in and really harms a lot of people. Whereas if we say, oh, going to school is actually an opportunity for us to provide you with information, skills, and access to things to help you build the life you want and to have skills that will help you in life, then getting A's at everything is irrelevant. The dancer doesn't need advanced algebra trig, and not being good at advanced algebra trig does not tell the dancer they're stupid, right? So those are some of the lies we've been told. And your parents, they told you a bunch of stuff. Sit still, be quiet, like behave this way. Majority of the time without malice, they were trying to help you be a good person, or be able to, let's be in this room in public, so try not to scream right now, sweetheart. So it was not done with malice. I'm going to say 99% of the time, right? But we got a lot of information from media, from society, culture, depending on the generation you're in, that says this is who you're supposed to be. And the more we try to conform to that, the more we go against ourselves. When we talk about authenticity, I'm talking about alignment with your integrity. The minute you feel you're bending, you're crossing a boundary, your gut starts to churn, like, oh, this is going against myself. You're crossing a boundary of your integrity. I want to help you make choices and have tools so you don't do that, right? Like that's a red flag. Oh, this is going against my integrity. And that could be, I'm posting something I don't really feel comfortable posting, or I'm pursuing a line of something musically that isn't really my thing. It's in every choice we make. So if we're making choices out of sounding good, being perfect, being good, that most of those are actually going to go against your integrity. And it shuts out your creativity. You're like, oh, I couldn't do that, right? Like you're going to edit yourself from trying things because you're trying to be good. But if I ask you this question, I mean, raise your hand, add it in the chat. Yes, Ken Robinson, his educational TED Talk was amazing on education. When I look at this question, how has my experience been with helping artists unlearn tendencies of stunting self-expression? Good technique, bad technique, yeah. And as opposed to style, that's a great question. So for me, when I'm teaching technique and we talk about meeting the artist where they are, I teach technique in a way that is about helping the artist have fun doing what they do. And I'm never saying good or bad. I'm always asking, how does it feel? So my goal is that when you're singing, it feels great to you. You're having fun. It feels consistent, expressive. So everything we're doing is for your expression, not to sound good, not to work on your voice as the end game. Your voice is serving you as a performer. So if I look at perfection and singing, so the unraveling comes with time and practice. And when your technique actually is in alignment, when you have good vocal technique, I say good as in healthy, expanding you can sing through your range more freely. That gives you the opportunity to trust yourself, have more confidence, and then take risks and have fun with it. So technique serves you as a person and serves you as a player of your instrument. The point is not to tune your instrument just to go like, look at that fabulously tuned piano. So, we tune the instrument. So, oh, now I can play what I want on it. I can write all these chords because the strings are all there. I was missing 5, 6, 7 strings, which limited my expression. It's not about the piano. It's about, oh, now I can play it differently and have more fun with it. So for me, vocal technique is only there to serve you. So if we look at perfectionism and we look at singing, and again, this can apply to a painter, a filmmaker. We can ask these questions in any genre, but I think also anyone in any genre can answer this question about singing. Even if you aren't a professional singer, we sing. So tell me some reasons why you sing, verbally, in the chat. Like, why do you sing? Why do you make music?
It just felt natural. Oh, sorry.
Yep, it feels natural. It's easy to get your ideas out.
I mean, I sang before I could read the words, so
Yep.
how it happened.
But like you were singing early. Yep. And today, like, why are you singing? To share all the feels. I love that. All the feels with everyone, to be authentic, voice out my feelings, connects you to your pure essence as a way to process life. It's very therapeutic. A lot of people are saying expression, communication, right? Because your mom did it. That's sweet. So stay sane. Yeah, it feels good. How you feel better. You feel like mentally better, emotionally better when you sing. Yep. So when you take my foundation course, you're going to see all those answers come up on a page. All of them and a few more. Because everyone actually sings for all the same reasons. Every human being. The person singing in the car, singing in the shower, sings for the same reason. It feels good, connects you to yourself. It's a very deep meditation. It connects you to others. Harmony, literal harmony, and an energetic harmony. When sound is, when frequencies are made, the cells in your body vibrate differently. It changes the vibration of the cells in your body. There's a really cool YouTube sound experiment. You can just type into YouTube sound frequency experiment and you'll see, and it's in the foundation course, you'll see it. But there's a vibrating plate. Have any of you seen this? There's a vibrating plate and they put sand particles on it. And when they change the hertz, literally the shape of the sand goes into different sacred geometry. So it's absolutely amazing. I've been making music for 30 years when I found this out. I was like, wow, how did we not know this? So particles change vibration and change relationship to each other with frequency. Sound is actually healing. When you sing, when you listen to music, when you make music, you are affecting yourself at a cellular level. You're literally changing your cells and the relationship of the cells. And then when you do that for an audience, the audience is having that experience together. They're literally vibing up with each other. It's amazing. You can break up kidney stones with sound. You can heal a lot. There's a Rife machine, if I'm saying the name right, it's called the Rife machine. In the 1950s, he created it. And basically he was like, if we dial into the frequency of any virus, bacteria, we can cure it with sound. And the pyramids in Egypt, sound healing chambers. They are sound chambers. Yeah, that's why live performance in the space is so powerful. It's not the same thing through a screen. It can be wonderful this way, but it's not the same as actual vibration happening in the room with you and with each other. And your breath and your heart rates, your heartbeats start to line up. You know, the blood pumping through your vein, your heart rate changes, the blood moving through your body changes. Now you're all doing that rhythmically together. Amazing. So you all told me why you say therapeutic, healing, incredible connection. I'm expressing myself. I get to share my feelings. The audience gets to feel my feelings, right? So that's why you sing. Why do you like listening to music? What do you want when you put on a record or go to a show? Why do you want to put on a movie? If you put on a tearjerker or you watch a comedy, why do you pick one over the other? What is it like to be in the audience? What do you want when you're an audience member? You want to feel something, yeah. Yeah. You want it to speak to you? Mm-hmm. Say something that you can't say with words. That's amazing. Connection. Helps you understand your own emotions. Yeah, definitely. See someone enjoying what they're doing. Very cool. Yeah, so if I watch a comedy, I want to laugh. If the actors on the screen are laughing and I'm not, I'm like, bad movie. Because as you said, go on a journey, what I call the ride. The audience wants to go on this ride with you. They want you to take them on the ride. You want to be on a ride, an emotional ride. So are you ever watching a performance or a movie and going, all right, let me get out my critic's hat here. I'm going to score this and critique this and judge the shit out of this. I mean, is that why you put on a movie, to like become a judge? No, you do it to have an emotional experience. I think we start critiquing when we don't have the emotional experience, right? If something's not good, it's not moving me, then I start seeing the why, which is also why as an artist, it's really valuable to watch the greats, but also watch people coming up. You learn, you're like, oh, that's not working. I do that. You know, why it's so valuable to record yourself live performances, watch it back. Oh, yeah, I just lost the audience there. I see that. Okay, I need to adjust. I just lost myself watching myself. Oh yeah, that didn't work. You know, so you learn from yourself, and it's not good or bad. You learn, where did I disconnect emotionally? Where am I connected? That's working. Well, that's not. Oh, that could be stronger. Do you know that Prince, every night after his live show with his whole band, watched the recording of the live performance? And this was before we had iPhones and it was easy to record everything. He watched a live performance with everybody and went through it and said, adjust that, that didn't work. He elevated his show, and he's truly, I would say he's the greatest, if not one of the greatest. And, you know, obviously like there's a lot of great, right? Like there's great on any given days, you know, your favorites change, but Prince I saw twice and was the greatest live performer I've ever seen. It's amazing. And he did that every night, watch the show with the band. And it wasn't like, you suck. It was, ooh, that didn't work. That did. Let's build more of that, less of that, change that chord. Let's move this. So he was elevating his show to make it a better and better ride for everybody. Amazing. And he knew his show intimately. He knew light changes. He knew what he wanted. Like when I say he knew what he wanted, it wasn't, the lighting guy wasn't going, okay, here, I'm going to do this. He's like, I want this. I want the light. He knew what he wanted from the get, like early days. So when you're in the audience, you want to have an emotional experience. So as the artist, your number one job is to take the audience on an emotional journey. It's your only job. It's your number one job. And you just get to learn how to do that more and more, better, accurately, effectively, and discover, well, what kind of ride do I want to take my audience on? You know, Prince took you on a certain ride. Daft Punk takes you on a certain ride. Billie Eilish takes you on a different ride.
And Wendy, I think that when we describe it as a ride, I think it's important to note that you can't take someone to a place that you haven't been yourself. And that's why it's so important to show up as that authentic self, because you need to be feeling it. Like, you can tell if you know, the reason why actors are so good on, like, say, like a well-made film is because the actors actually embody the character, they actually feel it, versus you know, like a production that isn't so good, or where acting is poor, because you're like, I don't believe it. They don't believe it. So why should I believe it? And so I think that's a lot of it can come out in terms of the performance of your songs, is like, you yourself have to feel it. You yourself have to believe it.
Yes.
Now, I'm kind of curious, because obviously you've had a lot of experience in this area, and you help other people do this. But, you know, I sometimes find it helpful for folks to hear, like, of any kind of our own personal journeys. So I'm kind of curious, as you're like kind of discovering and finding your own voice, both in terms of writing songs as well as performing, like, what were some of your biggest struggles or hurdles that you had to overcome? Or, you know, any favorite lessons or stories that you have to share that you kind of discovered on that journey yourself?
Sure, so many. I also want to respond to something you said, and we haven't even talked about the perfection part, so I want to make sure we do get to it. Also, watch the, you know, take Foundation and watch the TED Talk, because I go deeper into it, especially Foundation. We go deep into it. You get to go deep in it. It's not me just talking to you. You're going to have the experience yourself. You're going to take yourself through the process. But what you just said is, you have to be having the experience. That doesn't mean you have to relive the pain you felt when you wrote the song every time. It doesn't mean you have to pretend to be happy when you're not, because that's also not authentic. So it's really important that you're being real in the moment. As an example, an artist that was on tour and they were exhausted, and before the show I was getting them ready, and they're like, oh, I don't even want to be here. I'm so tired. I just want to quit. I don't even want to do the show. I hate this. And they were exhausted. And I said, okay, so tonight, when you go out on stage, you're not verbally going to say, I'm so tired. As you do your first song, I want you to express how much you don't want to be there, how tired you are, how terrible you feel. And they're like, I can't do that. That's not the ride I take my audience on, right? I make my audience happy. I'm like, I get that, but that's where I want you to start. I want you to start with the honesty of how you're feeling. And trust me, that it won't last for 2.5 hours of your show. Your songs are going to move you. The audience is going to move you. The moment you'll get into it. But if you start not being honest and you try to pretend to be happy and pretend to have energy, we are going to watch you struggle for your whole show being dishonest. We're going to watch you struggle to get into yourself, right? And so after the show, I asked, how was the show? And they went out and expressed, I'm so tired. I don't want to be here. And they're like, oh, it was so fun. It was a great show. I had such a good time. Because they started in the truth, it got expressed. It got passed. It was like, oh, the fatigue ended. The frustration ended. Because why? Because the stadium of people and the music she loves and the music she makes and her band, she could go with the feeling that she was in. So to take people on a ride, you got to be on it. How did I get to this course, Foundation? How did this become a philosophy? Because that was my experience. My experience was, I started working when I was 8 years old as a performer. I started singing when I was 3. I knew that I want to be a singer. I'm here to use my voice. I love singing. I started doing TV and acting and performing and working professionally when I was 8. I started getting coached more significantly when I was 15. And what I discovered over time was I started not liking music. I started hating music. I started not liking my own voice. I sounded bad. I felt like my heart was locked up here. My voice was out here. People were telling me I had a beautiful voice, which was the biggest insult to me. I hated hearing that. because my heart was back here and my voice was out there. So they loved this, but I was back here. I wasn't enjoying it. And so I realized like I lost my joy of this. I lost, like, I feel like I have no soul when I'm singing. Like, what happened? And so finding my way back to myself. And I started coaching when I was 20. And when I was 20, I started coaching Nancy Sinatra and Sid Charisse. So I was young, coaching very iconic artists, actually, and people who were very established. So for some of them, it was technique. And for some, it was like helping them have fun again. Like, I remember Nancy said, you know, oh, this song, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm like, ooh, let me help you with that. Because I had to learn how to not be tired of stuff again and how to have fun with it again. And so I started creating, I mean, like, I was like, she's like, perform the song for 40 years. So I was like, well, can I show you some games we could play and some things we could do that would help you feel more present with the song again and have more fun with it again? And so I was a vocal coach for a long time, but like I said, at some point I started calling myself an artist coach. I went from holistic vocal coach to artist because I was like, it's the whole person that I'm working with here. So it was my struggle of losing my way, that I want to help artists not lose their way. Can I help shrink the time factor of that? Can I help an artist who's 3 years on tour and it's, you know, it's lonely, it's a job, it's some of that fun can be lost. There's a lot of work that you're on. Can I help them get back to having more fun again? So for me, it really became about, I really discovered I love empowering people. And as a songwriter, I love writing with artists, for artists, help them say what they want to say to the world. You know, I love helping someone really express their voice, their true voice, their uniqueness, and what they have to say in the world, the way they want to say it. So I would say through my personal struggles, and that's where my philosophy and the way I coach came out. And then with that as well, I was just always a person who loved evolving as a person. I was meditating very young. I was doing yoga young. I found the bookstore that had, at that time, it was Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb and Carlos Castaneda, and reading about going on journeys with your sacred animals. And Out on a Limb, she talks about chakras. And I was like, I was read these books and be like, yes, yeah, that's like, I already believe that. And so just, I love evolving as a person. I love finding ways to grow and have tools that make my life, you know, more balanced or better. And some of it from my youth, I would say, came out of, I had the idea that something was wrong with me and I needed to fix it. And as I got older and learned, oh, nothing's wrong with me, I don't need to fix anything, but I do like evolving. So the reason I was doing stuff started that way, lost that, got back to that. There's nothing to fix here. There's just tools to make my life, like, how do I help myself when I'm having a bad day or when I feel overwhelmed? Can I have tools that help me work through that and be kind to myself and not judgmental? So my personal life and challenges I had, like I said, where I felt very shut down as a person, I need to speak my voice. So, and again, I love empowering others to do that. So I think that does come from my, you know, having my voice shut down. I don't want other people to experience that. Having lost my own joy, I don't want other people to experience that. You know, and again, I think if we think of like being a parent, like no parent wants their kid to experience pain, but it's unavoidable in life. Like, you're going to experience pain in life. So can I empower my kid, and in this case, people I work with, can I empower someone to be able to experience pain without being floored, without being lost, without, you know, feeling like they can't get up and brush themselves off and try again, you know? So I think that both of those things. Yeah.
Looks like, Wendy, we have a couple of questions that popped up in the chat. Nathan, do you want to give voice to these? And
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Wendy, for sharing your experiences. It's really helpful. And you know, I especially, oh, can you hear me all right? Okay, cool. I especially, you know, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, you suggested that we should try to do things that make us uncomfortable. And I've done lots of things that have made me uncomfortable. And then, especially I've written some really risque sexual songs that I refuse to listen to or look at. And, you know, I can't imagine looking at my old performances without cringing. And, you know, thank you. I got it at Uniqlo, like everyone else.
Love pokies.
Yes, me too. This
So
is why
good.
I manifested in my wardrobe. At least Uniqlo did, but but let's see. What was I saying?
You're saying
Oh,
cringe looking at the past.
yes, I don't want to use hate because it's a strong word, but I don't really like looking at my past performances. So how can I confront these feelings of cringe when I listen to myself to try to be better? And I had a second question. Should I wait for that
No,
one?
ask the second. Let me know what
And
it is.
yeah, and the second one, I I think I have an idea of my authentic voice slash artistic identity. I'm sure I could learn more about it, but after, for artists in general, like once you find your artistic, authentic voice, what is the next step?
So if you were to tell me what your authentic, I'm going to say vision is, what is your artistic vision? Who are you?
Well, I feel like I am kind of all over the place in terms of
So,
genre.
so you don't have a clear artistic vision.
But wait. I'm like in my show that I did for my senior thesis, I played different characters who
Okay.
delved into different genres. And in that show, I played like Asian American stereotypes. So like the sexual song, I played
Okay.
the Oriental fantasy character.
Amazing.
Yes, and I was shirtless, and it was during my Rubenesque phase, so I don't like to look at it. I don't like to look at myself. But you know, I kind of dabble in everything, but you know, I feel like I'm still trying to I think I know myself, but then it's hard for me to.
You know yourself today, like you know certain things and you know yourself today and you know what you're playing with. So it's not like you don't know yourself, but it is honing in. So maybe, I don't know, I don't have this answer, but maybe part of your vision from what you said of your thesis is that you do play different characters, and or maybe are you leading with one? Is one of those characters like the bigger part of who you are, and that's how you show up all the time? And then maybe a certain single, that other part of you is like more dominant in that one. I think it's also like trying. So you said a lot. So how do we look at ourselves? I think the first thing is that you need to know what you're looking like through what eyes. Like if you're looking with judgment, it's hard to look at yourself, right? We want to try to practice compassion. You know, okay, you were Rubenesque. Okay, can I look at myself with compassion? If that was, how old were you then when you did that? A minute ago?
Yeah, I'm just 2 years ago.
Okay, so 2 years ago. If you can look at that as if it wasn't you, how old were you 2 years ago?
22.
Okay. And sometimes it's really helpful just to look at that person as if they were a 9-year-old and say, how would I speak to this 9-year-old? If I was looking at this person who's 9, how would I respond to this? Be like, oh, okay, well, you were, okay, I was Rubenesque. Why? Well, because I was eating this and that. Maybe I was eating because I was sad. Maybe I was like having a compassion and understanding for yourself. And you know how you are not Rubenesque now. So you learned something and grew from that place. So you did the best you could at that time with the information you had and the tools you had. So I think it's just important when you look that you know what you're looking for, right? Okay, I'm going to watch to be compassionate towards myself. I'm going to watch to see what do I have in abundance there. So watch that recording again, and I want you to write down all the things you love about it. Like, ooh, what is working? What's abundant? What do I love here? Because I bet there's a list of things that you want to and can still carry on with now. And then the stuff that's not working, look like, well, what was I going for? Do I still want to go for that? How can I do it in a new way now? Like, what's the thing I was trying to accomplish that didn't quite land? And some of it you might say, yeah, those things didn't work, or I'm not interested in pursuing that now, sharing that way now. And some are, but ooh, I think I know how I might want to try expressing that now. Because again, that's the honing in part, right? Like, oh, maybe something you did in there is actually how you want to express yourself through social media now. You're like, ooh, I could do that as a TikTok kind of thing, and that would play out really cool. Maybe it's not in the song that I want that. That could play out in this kind of idea. But you want to look at the core of what you were going for or trying to express. And again, like what do I have in abundance? What's there that's amazing? And as you said, when we started this, like aligning with activism or aligning with cause, it doesn't mean that, as you said, like everything you do is going to be activism, but I would look at, you know, in what way do you want to affect people, and how can you get them involved in community? If it's, you know, oh, every time I release a single, there's a certain portion that goes to this charity, or I want to rally my audience into collecting food for this group of people, this community that's, you know, food scarce, like aligning yourself with communities and people that, and I'm going to use the word cause, like a cause that you care about, again, gives bigger meaning to what you're doing. And it's not just about you. Well, I'm not just doing this to be validated. I'm not just doing this so that I get seen and applauded. With this, I'm helping these people. With this, we have another bigger purpose greater than myself. And that also helps chill your ego. So that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of like being authentic versus having like performative activism, like people who say things to try and get recognition because they think it will garner them additional support, versus people who just do things through and through because that's who they are.
Yeah.
I want
someone like throws on something, they're like, oh, they asked me to be an ambassador for this thing. And when someone cares,
look at it, almost any politician, right? Like we see countless examples of that. So don't be the politician version of like yourself, be that authentic self.
Yeah.
Ashley, you had a question in there as well. Did you want to give voice to that?
Yes. Hi. First of all, thank you so much I've taken like 3-4 pages of notes, so thank you so much for this presentation. I guess my question is, how do you toggle between the various hats, but roles that you have? Because I'm also somebody who is not just a musician, but I'm also a writer and a poet, and I write articles as well. And so like as somebody who's doing it successfully, jumping between these different roles, how do you do it? And then also, how do you see them being in relationship with each other?
That's a great question. And also, Nathan, just to finish, like the fact that you played a lot of characters, that might be something that is always present for you. Maybe you put on a one-man show where you do play a lot of characters. Maybe that comes out in, again, social media content where you're like, ooh, this character is going to be my TikTok. Like I'm going to present this as my TikTok thing, or I'm going to do, it's an exploratory thing. Beck very successfully and very uniquely had very different genres on every album. That's incredibly rare. Like that's not what anyone does but Beck. So I think that it's just like keep exploring, and you'll find the thread that really you resonate with and your audience resonates with.
Okay.
So overall, Ashley, I think the number one thing is that no matter what I'm doing, I am an artist. Right. And also, no matter what I'm doing, I'm a coach. And that's because it's who I am. Like if you showed me how to fix a car, I would be showing someone else tomorrow. Like I'm a person who shares information, who passes it along, a person who connects people. So I show up in everything I do. Therefore, when I'm in a writing session, I somehow am coaching people. Like I'll say something that's in the realm of like informing, educating, offering something, right? The thing I do like about the different things I do and that I feel I need in my life is variety. So I need to make sure I have a writing session or a co-writing session because I need to songwrite. So if I don't have that and my life gets too heavy in another direction, I'm like, oh, I got to rebalance. So for me, the toggling is essential. Like I like variety. I love that. I love coaching. So just making my schedule in that way. I think also as a creative, I think that as a creative, it's really important to recognize, like I said, ask yourself, what do I have in abundance? So, I'm a writer and I do articles and I do poetry. Great. Keep offering that to people. Offer that up and you'll find a channel or a lane of your life or career open up that you're like, oh, because I was open to that, I co-wrote with this person. I wrote articles here. You could end up with a career you don't even know exists right now because you just allowed yourself to continue the writing and use all your skills. I know artists sometimes are like, I'm an artist, I want to be the front man. and maybe you turn down jobs that you're the sideman in another band. You're like, why? Like, say yes. It's, if you love doing it, you like the people, you're going to gain experience, you're going to get paid, you're going to be living your life as an artist. Say yes, go have that experience and meet more people in the industry and get more experience. Doesn't mean your solo career is over. It just means you're doing this right now, and you're writing in the evenings, or you're meeting people that you might work with on your solo career. And I see a lot of people who, once you do that, like the artist Ella Vos, she was, oh, as soon as I want to name it, it disappears. But she was the keyboard player and a side singer for another artist, who then another artist I coached took her spot. And now Ella Vos has a big headlining tour and headlines as an artist. She's got an established career. Misty went from that gig to Sara Bareilles, and Misty has a solo career, right? But Misty was like, said yes, because I'm like, I'm gonna go on tour with Sara. I'm musically arranging stuff. She started doing computer and doing things she had to learn upper skills for. And she was like, I love the challenge. It's hard. It's awesome, right? So I think saying yes to looking at what you have in abundance, how can I offer that also, and not be so narrow-minded? That being said, it takes a lot of energy to, like, if you want to do sync music, it takes a lot of energy to get yourself in that lane. So you can't be so dispersed that there isn't enough energy to make something move forward. But it's also like, try a lot of different things and then see where the universe says yes to and where the doors open. Ooh, that's plentiful. Let me stay in this lane this is opening up doors. Don't shut those doors that the world is opening up because you want to do this. The thing you want to do could be through that door or something better. Something like, I didn't know I was going to be a coach 30 years later and traveling around the world and loving my life. Like, I had no idea I was going to be a coach. I was pursuing being a music artist.
This is really encouraging, because that's been the thing that I've been worrying about the most, because I've also started writing for music blogs, which is really exciting. But I'm also like, is that then not necessarily inauthentic, but it's like, I do have so many layers of me. It's like, I will be interviewing an artist, but then it's also like, oh, but I would also love to collab. And I'm like, but I also don't want to like information overload either and be like, here's a list of everything. So it's like, I think it's just like, because I tend to overthink, it's like that first moment where you meet someone does make an impact, but also like, because that changes too.
Right.
So it's been in my head a lot recently.
I think if you're doing your job, you need to like stay like strong in that job. And sometimes it's feeling it out of going, we're vibing, and be like, this was awesome. I loved hanging with you. You know, if you ever want to hang again, like I write, I'm a songwriter. Like, I just would love to hang out with you again. And these are different things I do. You got to feel out like when it's appropriate to do that and when it seems like you might be crossing the boundary, and sometimes it's also slow burn. This was awesome. Thanks for the interview. This was great. I'd love to hang again. I'll hit you up on Instagram. That's it. Hit them up later. Talk about it later. Be like, hey, I'd love to, ooh, if you ever want to write, here's some stuff I've done. If you want to check out my vibe, I would love to write with you. I'm such a fan of what you do. And I love songwriting. Like, that could come 5 conversations later. So it doesn't all have to be like now. And a lot of that is intention. A lot of that is like, if you're desperate, that's what comes off. If you're like, I love what I'm doing, I love who you are, let's do this again. The doors will open. Some artists I coach never songwrite with me. They don't want to change their dynamic with me. They love me as a coach. Some people I write with, they don't work with me as a coach. And then there's a percentage in the middle that do both. So, and for me, it's wherever someone else is comfortable. These are the things I do. How do you want to utilize me?
I think it's important that, we've been talking a lot about authenticity. This is also part of it, because you want to build authentic relationships, and people can tell if you just want to use them for something versus you just genuinely want to have a presence in their life, and vice versa. Because I think as you do that, it just naturally shows up in a lot of different ways, and oftentimes ways that can surprise you and take you on really exciting places.
Yeah.
Ting, I wanted to, you dropped a question in the chat as well.
Yes. Thank you so much, Wendy. It's been awesome to listen to everything, and there are a lot of things I'm like, I'm already doing that. And there are a lot of things I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that. So I was just curious, because you're very much in the music industry, and you know a lot of like Grammy Award winning musicians, very successful mainstream musicians. What do you think separates those people from very talented, successful, independent artists that never has been nominated for an award or anything? Like, what do you think separates them?
I think there's a couple questions in there. Grammys and Grammy Awards specifically, or any Oscars, any of them. There's a whole business and political side to that. So being an indie artist or being a mainstream artist and not having an award is not indicative of someone's talent, right? So, I mean, I vote for Grammys, and like I remember 3 years ago listening to all the albums in the album of the year, and I'm thinking, there's albums I've heard that I think surpass these. I also heard like a lot of similarities in all the albums, and I'm like, it's like this is what's popular right now. So I'm hearing popular in these songs, and I'm personally missing some uniqueness. And I'm hearing great albums, like, don't get me wrong, I'm like, that's an amazing album, but it often sounds awfully similar to the album in this other genre, so I think that a difference between someone who's successful and someone who kind of spins their wheels or kind of gets a certain place and doesn't get past that, then we got to look at, character choices. Like, are you hard to work with? Like, it's really important to be a good hang, like just being a good person and like good to be around. It doesn't mean you have to be like fun or funny. Everyone, Ali Moss, who tours with Ingrid Michaelson, she's the mama of the group. Like, she's the mom. She's like, hey, we need to be on time. And like, and she's the mom of the group. That's her role. And she's so wonderful. So like just being, I think there's a work ethic and a discipline that's very important. I mean, being successful, and again, you need to define your success. Does success mean you have a family? Does success mean you have time off? Does it, like, you have to define what success means. It's not all ticket sales. It's not all money driven. It's not all definitely likes, it's got to be a life you want. Do you want to live in the country? Then that's success. If you're living in LA in the middle of the city and you're doing well, but you hate your life, not success. So, but I do think that discipline, showing up, when knowing what you need to say no to is as important as what you say yes to. That you'll make success by partnering with and doing a duet or going on tour with that artist, but you're like, yeah, but like everything they stand for is not what I want to say to my audience. Right. So, choices, discipline, work ethic is really important. If you're a person who takes a month to finish a song because you want it to be perfect, I would give you the assignment to say, I want you to finish a song in 2 weeks and like do it and move on. And if you're a person who like finishes a song every day, I'd say take 2 weeks to finish one of those songs and spend time exploring, trying different things, slow it down, speed it up, change the groove. Because it's not one answer for everybody. Sometimes it's countering your tendencies. You're like, oh, you do things really fast. You probably need to take more time to craft and elevate the quality and play. Like, I'm going to try this song in 7 different ways and see which way I love it. Ed Sheeran, one of his songs, an interviewer asked him, it was a big hit. And they asked, would you do it differently? Like, is there, like, knowing this song is a big hit, but would you want to change it up? Is there anything that like you wish you did? And he said, oh, no, I recorded that song 38 times. I know that's the version I love.
Awesome. Yeah. And we want to respect Wendy's time as well. Sure. So we've got time for one more question. Sara, you had one. Did you want to share that?
Hi, Wendy.
Half of Ed's songs. Hi. I'm sorry. Ed busked for, I believe it was 3 years, every day performing on the streets. Every day performing on the streets. 3 years, 365 days out of the year, getting experience. That's a big reason why his songs are so great. His performances are great. I saw him on stage I hadn't seen him before. He was about 21. Him, a guitar and a loop pedal, which generally I hate loop pedals. And he was magnetic and captivating, and I wasn't interested in anything but him. I was like, that's a great performance, you know. And some of his songs now, though, I would say, and they're actually true, some, like a couple of his recent hits weren't for him. He wrote them for other people. And his management was like, no, this is a huge hit. You should record this. And you can hear, I can hear it, you can hear it. You're like, this is a Rihanna song. It doesn't sound like an Ed Sheeran song. I mean, am I right? Am I wrong? No, but it's, I mean, am I right? Is it right or wrong that he released it? That's up to him in the end, right? Like that's up to him if he's happy that that's a hit that he's got to sing for the next 40 years.
Yeah, I remember him like in an interview, he was talking about Shape of You, and he was like, man, like I hate singing that song, but everybody loves it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like him.
Yeah.
Doesn't
But it
sound
fits
like an
him.
Ed Sheeran song.
But like his voice sounds really nice in it though.
Of course, because he can sing. You know, he could say, he could probably sing the phone book and make it sound good because he knows how to perform and move you. I had a co-write, actually it was AR Rahman. AR is remarkable. And we were writing a song together. And I said, okay, I got the song and I'm gonna sing it for him. And he's like, hold on. I have to ignore your voice. Okay, go ahead. And I sang. And when he said that after, I said, why did you say that? Why did you say to ignore my voice? He said, well, you could sing the phone book and I'd buy it. So I have to ignore how you're singing and performing it. I need to just listen to the lyric and the melody and know if it, and to hear that. And I went, oh, wow, he's right. I need to make sure I don't do that to my own songs for myself. Like I need to make sure when I'm writing a song, I'm not selling myself the song, that is the song solid. Because I've done that. I've recorded other songs for other people and I'm like, the song's not great, but I'm gonna make it great. I'm gonna play with the melody. I'm gonna elevate this song that isn't so solid. So I was like, oh, I have to make sure I do that for me, right? Ed sang that song, he's gonna sell that song, right? And sell it like he knows how to perform it, make it feel something. But for him, it's not his authentic expression. So he's tired of singing it.
Yeah. I guess that kind of ties into my original question was, what question do you wish that artists ask more of? And just to kind of like tag along with that, do you have a creative community circle, Wendy, to like pitch your songs with? And usually like when you do that, how do you navigate like who to select in your tight community of
That's a good question.
creative
What
community?
was the first question you asked?
What question do you wish artists ask more?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I wish they would ask less often, how do I hit the high notes? It's what everyone wants. Okay, we're gonna do that. But what would I wish they asked more? That's a very good question.
Because you've worked with like icons such as Sara and Nancy.
Yeah.
And girl, I heard you sing on the what is it, coming up artist performance.
What was that?
It was like years ago, and it was a live performance of you. You look like you were in your like 20s, and you were singing all these high notes, doing all these crazy runs.
I don't know
Like,
which one it is, but okay.
I want to say Apollo, but maybe not Apollo, but it was like one of the big ones. Yeah.
I was 17.
Oh, 17. Yeah.
At the Apollo. Yeah, that was 17 when I performed at the Apollo, the TV show. Yeah. Oh yeah. So see, I watched that and I don't cringe, but I look at it and go, who is that? Like, that is not me. That was 17-year-old me. And I'm like, oh, 17-year-old me did not know herself. I wasn't showing up. Actually, I didn't know that I was queer yet. So I'm singing a song about like some man that I love. And you're like, yeah, there's a disconnect there. And even if I was saying the word man, but I knew what I wanted, it would have read differently, right? I was wearing an outfit that was definitely what I was supposed to be wearing. You know, so I don't hate myself. I look at it and go, oh, Wendy, you knew it's going to take you some time. But yeah, I could hit some notes for sure. I can hit some notes and I still can, but they're only there for me to express myself. That's the difference. So I enjoy singing a lot more now for sure. What do I wish people, I'm going to think on that because that is a very good question. That's a very good question. I mean, for me, I don't know, I think I want them to ask what I'm here to give, which is, how do I create a career that I love? How do I show up and curate a life that I love and that brings meaning?
Yeah.
And I do think at the core, whether you realize it or not, you all showed up to this event. You're taking your time to be here. That means you have a greater purpose, right? Like, if you are dedicating yourself, disciplining yourself, there is a very burning desire in you to do something in the world, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't show up. You may not be conscious yet about that burning desire, like what it is, how you want to impact. And you might have a glimpse of it, you might be clear on it, but it's there, right? Like, I didn't know my purpose until I started coaching and went, and then even then I clarify it, right? My goal is to empower artists to express their unique voice and to create a life they love. To say that in a sentence took me a while, to like, oh, this is what I love to do. And I love to create, for that, I love to connect community. So every course that I do, like, we just started, so I've been doing the artist circle for a number of years. This year we're revamping it. So if you sign up for my mailing list, for example, or you sign up for the circle, you'll hear about it when we revamp it. But basically the artist circle has been a bit of like a 12-step program for creatives. It's a space where we talk about things that artists deal with, and you talk to each other. So you leave that physical space, that room, and I started doing it online last year, but you leave that space with new friends, mentors, mentees. We've had 5-time Grammy winners in the space. We have someone writing their first song. People have become collaborators from meeting each other in that space, because it's a space where artists really get to know each other. So any event that I do, any course that I lead, has a component of you spending time with each other. It isn't just about me talking to you. It really is about you getting to know each other. Even today in this aspect, you see me like, tell me something, share with me. Like, so in that chat, you all got to at least know that, oh, there's someone in this room that is doing it for the same reason I am, right? And when I lead events, you spend time talking to each other. So if you, again, you go on my website, where is that on my website? Oh, it's in my Instagram. There's a link in my Instagram to join the Parr Pack. So the Parr Pack is a new space on Facebook where I'm bringing community together, where there'll be stuff online, but we're going to have a once a month live event where you'll meet each other. You meet each other. If you've taken the ride, the ride people meet each other. So that's all about building community. And to answer more of your question of who do you continue to do things with people that you enjoy hanging out with people who show respect to you. That's really key. Not the person you think is going to make your career, not the person you think is going to open the door for your career. Not if that compromises, like if they're not respectful, if you know what I mean, like it's the chemistry you have. Your success is going to come with a group of people that may be where you are right now, and you're all going to come up together. It's not like, oh, I need that person to lift me up. So it's all about people you have chemistry with. It's all about people who respect you, listen to your creative ideas, because that's when you're going to make magical creations, right? Because you got to have input and someone listened and then you did something new together, rather than, oh, I worked with a 3-time Grammy winner, but he didn't listen to anything I said. He wanted me just to kind of sing on his stuff, right? So, that's not fun.
And that just brought up a question. Oh, I don't know if we have time, so I can email it to you. But just like, what if you started writing a song with someone and then that you feel that complete disconnect for like the respect? How do you then like go about kind of yeeing out of that situation while still not burning a bridge?
Well, I mean, if you finish the song, it's there, you can pitch it, you could do something with it if you want. You just don't write again. You stay friendly, like you can be kind, but you don't give your time there, right? You don't give your time there. And again, as a person, I tend to want to help people be aware. Most of the time people won't. They'll just stop talking to you and you don't know why, right? Maybe you figure it out. You're like, oh, I was this way, I was that way. Most of us learn by just hopefully figuring it out. But as I have, and if anyone's interested, I'm looking for interns, like it's a college credit internship and potential paid paid job. If anyone's interested, I'm looking for people now and also for the summer. Email me, I'll send you the information. But for example, I put it up on LinkedIn for this internship, and someone emailed me back 2 days later saying, oh, I just saw this. Can I turn it in tomorrow? I know it's 72 hours late. Would you make an exception for the time zone? And I said, and I could have just said, thank you, good luck. I could have said nothing, but I see it as a teachable moment. And I said, you know, New York has a 3-hour difference, not a two-day difference. And I don't even think I said it that way, but I said, oh, and they asked, is there an interview process? Because I'd really like to meet you. And I said, this was the first step. Completing this step leads to an interview. But you did miss the deadline. So I wish you well. And I hope you'll find a gig that, you know, suits you. But the reason we do this first is to find out, this is part of the process. Can someone meet a deadline? Can they complete the task? How do they do it? This was step one to lead to an interview. And, you know, I'm sorry you missed the deadline. And part of me wants to give them another chance. And I was like, no, if that's the way they show up on the first step, that's how they're going to show up every week to my team meeting. And I'll be waiting on the things, they'll miss the deadlines. Like, and we can't do that. So again, kindness. And for me, I want to give them information. So maybe now the next time he has an opportunity, he'll step up to it. I hope so. If he doesn't, it'll take him a little longer to, you know, work his way through life.
Awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time and sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure.
You know, everyone give her a hand. There's a lot of silent clapping going on. So yeah, so thank you so much. And just a reminder that if you would like to apply, I got the link in the chat here. We do have an opportunity where, you know, our foundation will pay for scholarships so that you can go through the RIDE program with Wendy. It's a 6-week course. Obviously, there's a lot of great wisdom and coaching community, which is so important for creatives and for artists, as we all know, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow her on Instagram. There's a link in her bio that has a whole bunch of other good stuff that you want to be a part of. She also has a great newsletter that has info. So all the things like, you know, you can get to it through the link tree that's on her Instagram bio. So thank you again so much.
I am so pleased. Like, this was a total pleasure. You all were great, like great questions, great energy. And I really look forward to seeing the applications that come through on the scholarship. And thank you, Simon.